with other intersections.
Along the way.
Man, an enlightened.
What, they popped it onto their face and they put it up.
His own free will. Such unthinkable violence.
Didn't really address that much.
So one day,
and August comes to mind.
but we can hope.
Khuấy nắng vào nồi cơm đang.
Same semester I failed my college.
Have lost.
With his dingy vocabulary.
Beautiful when reflected in it.
Specialized classes.
He'd been involved with various older women.
But this.
Stay, and he'd give my grandma.
Broken up.
Who grew in numbers by the day.
It's been 2 months.
Taste this time, she swears.
Broken or sound.
As the lawlessness of the...
I was 4 years old.
My grandson, who adores and lived it until I was 12 years old.
Our training course the previous winter.
Sketching and making.
Pablo Cartaya is a Cuban-American author, screenwriter, speaker, and educator who has taught creative writing workshops and spoken at universities and conferences throughout the world. His work has been featured in the New York Times and the Washington Post, on NBC, and by Oprah's Book Club. Cartaya has worked with Disney, Apple TV+, and Sesame Street on projects adapted from television series and movies. In 2021, he served as a judge for the National Book Award in Young People's Literature. His latest book, the graphic novel Curveball, was just featured at the 2024 National Book Festival. It follows a girl who spends the summer regaining a passion for baseball.
So I'm going to tell you a story about my mom. My mom came from Cuba when she was 4 years old. And she was in a new place in Miami at a time when they had signs out on the door that said, and some restaurants, some places had a sign that said, no dogs, no blacks, no Cubans. And she was growing up in a place, learning a new language. And she would take the bus everywhere with my mom, with my grandmother, my abuela, while my abuela was looking for work. So she would go, as far out as North Miami Beach. She'd go out to Fort Lauderdale, and she'd kind of tag along with my grandmother while my grandmother was looking for work. They had just arrived, and she was trying to find a place where they would, hire her. And my mom tells me the story of how one time she went with her mom, my abuela, to Miami Beach to go and see if she can work at this atelier, which is a friend of hers from Cuba. He was working there, and he told my grandma, he said, come and see if there's some work for you here. And my grandmother wore this really beautiful embroidered blouse that her grandmother had given her. And my mom came along with her. And so they took the bus, and they arrived at this atelier, and my grandma just started right away. She just wanted to show that she could do the job, and her friend was there, and she was showing the stuff. And this woman comes in to the store and sees my grandmother. And she says, "Oh my God, that blouse, it's beautiful. I love it. How much? How much for the blouse?" And my grandmother says, $50. And the woman says, "I'll take it." And then my mom starts crying. She's like, no, that's abuela's, that was her grandmother. And it's like, no, that she made it for you. No, don't do that. My grandmother goes into the dressing room, changes, takes an extra shirt that her friend gave her, hands it to her, and gets $50 for the shirt. My mom is sobbing. And she tells my mom, "You don't need to cry. Those are just things. Mi amor. Those are just things that we have. We take them off, we give them away. That doesn't mean anything. What you can never take away is your family, is your community, is your culture. And she tells my mom this. And she goes, nobody will ever be able to take away your story. And my mom calmed down, and she, ended up remembering this. And it wasn't until recently that I was having a conversation with her that she told me this story. And I had never heard it. Usually when I tell stories, I tell stories about my dad. My dad, was a political prisoner, and I give these very heroic tales of, the life of being a first-generation born Cuban American. And I tell these stories about, the struggle and my dad and how he came through. But it's this story that I had never heard, that my mom told me over coffee one morning. Just randomly, it just came to her. She just started talking to me about it. And it's one of the most impactful stories I think I've ever heard from my family. And it's something that I think about and have been thinking about. And the power of the small stories and the impact that they have. This is a young girl who came from Cuba, who was feeling alone, feeling sad, feeling scared, and didn't want her mom to give up this beautiful blouse. And what her mom taught her, that the most important things in this world are family, community, your culture, and the stories you tell. And this is precisely why I tell the stories that I tell. Right? Because that's something that they can never take away. And I'm glad my mom told me that story. And I think that every place that I go and everything that I do, I hope that my grandmother up above is looking and saying, he's carrying on that tradition and the importance of what a story means to a culture. Thank you.
We've gathered such an incredible community of strong, fierce, creative women whose voices and art can continue to change the world for the better. There's so much work to do. First, let's finish this job. Make sure your vote counts. Help us sustain and grow this beloved community by donating money, volunteering time, or by telling your friends about us. With your help, we'll be able to provide a wider platform for artists, produce higher quality videos, publicize our activism to bring voices to a wider audience, pay our interns, and hire an executive director. Please consider supporting us.
The story of our world every day. Listen and your heart may open up. If ever you feel frightened of our world that's washed away, a mother is a mother, come to us. Women, 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 women sew the fabric of